Am I the asshole for refusing to save my parents' house after they left my child a Christmas begone note? Our then 9-year-old son found a Christmas Eve letter in his stocking. It's time for us to go to Hawaii. Before we return, we respectfully ask that you leave the property. Because of this, her hands quivered. I maintained a composed demeanor throughout. I made a hasty tweak with my phone. Because of what I did, they became pale. My first audible signal was an artificial whisper. Awaken, awake, mother. I woke up, and I opened one eye. The darkness enveloped my chamber. The fact that the sky is this dark indicates that morning has not yet broken. I quickly retrieved my phone from the nightstand, my pupils constricting. 12:30 a.m. It seems to reason that if your life is destined to be a total disaster, you may as well face it first thing in the morning, while your thoughts are still fresh and your tongue is still tingling from past mistakes. My little daughter Sadie was standing by the bedside in her pajamas. Her hair sticking out like it had been in a blender all night. Cheek sagging was her feature. Her little hands clenched a piece of paper as if it were trying to suffocate her. Is something wrong? I asked in a low voice. I sprang to my feet and immediately started checking her face for the telltale symptoms of a mother. Fever, blood, and the question, did you throw up somewhere? With a forceful shake of her head, she seemed speechless. She drew near, murmured something, and then extended the piece of paper toward me. Anxiety was making her shiver. I took great care as I removed it from her, handling it with the same kind of attention I would a sharp object. My stomach sank like a rock as I read the penmanship. The message was succinct. It wasn't required. It's time for us to go to Hawaii. Before we return, we respectfully ask that you leave the property. That was it. Christmas was not a joyful time. Yeah, I love you. Even without a smiley face, it might have been worse. I hung on to it for a second longer, hoping that the late-night cheese had merely conjured up this strange dream. Vicky sniffed. She mumbled something under her breath on the table. I think my grandparents are the ones who give. My brain tried to reorganize itself by taking on a logical form. I spoke slowly because I needed something to hold on to while I was still half asleep. Very well. It might be a joke. Though. On a separate occasion, Sadie's pupils enlarged. I wonder if Grandma is sick of me. Indeed, I made the comment immediately. It was far too hasty. Less than ideal. My voice became more subdued after I succeeded in controlling it. Not at all. You don't matter in this context. I was completely clueless before. But I was not going to stand by and watch my 9-year-old participate in adult cruelty at 6:45 on Christmas Eve. I rose from my slumber and stood up. The floor was chilly. It had to have been because the universe is a sucker for a good theme. I begged her to remain where she was. As if she were a little, exhausted accountant, Sadie nodded and wiped her face with her sleeve. Sure, I'll just take a look. Upon entering the hallway, my chest tightened. Why? Because the eerie emptiness went beyond mere silence. No talking while I'm in the kitchen. Silence the TV. The tracks have vanished. There is complete silence. No. I didn't think you'd be up this early. My mom would say whenever she wanted to ask me for something. As if they were all ducking into the living room, I sprinted over there. Absolutely nothing. As I stood in front of the door, my mind started to mentally catalog things without my awareness or permission. Yesterday, bags were arranged at the door. My parents had been talking about sunscreen and passports. Nothing remained in the space next to the door. Almost nothing remained on the pegs. Not even a raincoat for that unexpected weather. Certainly not my dad's ridiculous vacation cap, which he proudly wears about the house. I turned away from the driveway and walked over to the window. Usually, my parents' car can be seen there, like a loyal dog. Not a soul was in sight in the driveway. Coming up empty-handed. One piece of luggage did not make it. I said, "Oh. All right." Sadie and I were left behind when they left. They then proceeded to leave. I stayed put because staring out the window made it seem like the car might turn around and go back into the garage. Absolutely not. It was imperative that I take deep breaths. When I realized that reality was being dishonest, I did what everyone else does. It was I who initiated contact. First things first, Mom. Check your voicemail. My dad is going to go after him. Left a message on the voicemail. I figured, denial is free, and I gave it another go. Left a message on the voicemail. Upon my return to my room, I discovered Sadie standing motionless, just as she had been throughout. She looked at me with a hopeful but hurtful expression on her face. Do you see them? She asked. May I apologize? She wanted to know. It crushed me. Presently, no. She slouched. She tried to hold back her tears by clenching her jaw, and my chest constricted again. Sure, I whispered. Pardon me, but shouldn't we get in touch with Aunt Brianna? The sparkle in Sadie's eyes remained constant even as she nodded. I went into the hallway to avoid Sadie overhearing. This isn't because I wanted to keep anything from her. Rather, a child's heart just can't handle some things. My sister Brianna was contacted by me. It made 3 distinct tones. Her response was insulting because, to anyone familiar with Brianna, it sounded like she had been awake for hours. It was a yes from her. Brianna, I said, being careful not to shake my voice. My folks, where on earth are they? There will be a brief pause. Even though it was brief, I could discern that she was considering playing dumb. She then let out a bored sigh. Suddenly, I felt sick to my stomach as the message was located. You saw it coming. I restated what Brianna had previously said. We all decided. Because sometimes it helps your brain accept insanity if you say it aloud. Brianna explained with a touch of humor. Ethan, your age is 34. I remained silent, my eyes closed behind me. Brainia, no. She spoke up, her voice getting increasingly sharp. Forget it. You're still residing with your parents even though you're 34 years old. It's embarrassing. I said, clenching my grip on the phone even more. Something horrible made me gag. I said. The words we paid for our room escaped Mom's lips too hastily, suggesting that she had practiced them beforehand. That's fit for purpose. She commented. It was Brianna's best friend's desire to go. There wasn't a single spare room. The realization that we had granted her the room caused my eyes to widen. Does it mean Madison is involved? Yes. Mom said, her voice filled with joy and contentment. Greetings, Kendall. She has been Brianna's trusted confidant since their freshman year. Basically, she's like a member of the family. All it took to hear those words was a slap. They have a relative. Repetition was my method. Smugly. Brianna interjected. She certainly is. She has been there for me. A little squeak came from Sadie's door, and I heard it. I could feel her presence as her shadowy figure trailed behind me. In any case, I proclaimed, with a voice so calm it scared me, that Madison is family. Sadie and I, however, are not. Instant clarity washed over Mom's voice. You don't say it that way. Almost comical. Not for comedic effect, but because it was the kind of statement one makes when one is totally sure of themselves. Then, what gives? I apologize. I wanted to know. Could you please direct me to the right place? With an optimistic expression, Brianna told her that she would find a solution. I can tell you've matured. Once again, Mom made her dismissive sound. Wow, you've really lucked out after all this time. I mouthed the words, a cushy setup, as if they were delicious. Brianna carried on as if this were her breakthrough. That place is just weird for you to live in. You will be 34 years old after that. It's embarrassing. Your insistence that we examine the item I chopped finally caused my voice to break. Like if you were the child of a single mother who shared the financial burden of your schooling. Would it be considered embarrassing? Mom became very angry. Greetings, Evelyn. Brianna became very angry. View a dramatic play. In that instant, a light bulb went off in my brain. Lacking in wrath, tears, and perplexion, I ceased to dispute. I ducked and dove. I didn't make any demands. Quietly, I spoke. Very well. Sure, I understand. Afterwards, the call was cut off. The subsequent silence was weighty. Returning to my room, I confidently entered. Sadie sat on the edge of the bed, her hands in her sleeves and her face damp. She stared up at me the whole time, as if she were holding her breath. Do you think we're in danger? She whispered softly. I clenched my jaw. The word no came out of my mouth as I hurried across the room to embrace her. No. My darling. Everything is fine. Her grip on me was so tight it was as if I, too, were about to disappear. Will we be asked to leave? Why is that? Subtly, she murmured. Is it my existence that matters? My grandmother's disapproval was palpable as I pulled her closer. Truth was too big and sharp for a 9-year-old like me, so I lied to be delicate. Do not get involved. It is not you who is to blame. Vicky sniffed. Yeah, the holiday season is here. I know, she said, her lips brushing against mine as we kissed. And the holiday of Christmas will continue. I recoiled, wiped her cheeks with my thumbs, and lowered my voice to a low, monotone. I demanded their full focus. We are both doing well. It will all work out in the end. Even though she nodded. Sadie appeared unpersuaded. Quickly, I glanced at the note again, and then at my phone. Well, I refrained from shedding any tears. I pulled out my phone and did something secretly so no one would suspect a thing. As soon as they found out what I was up to, their lives started to unravel. In order to understand why I didn't try to talk it out the traditional way by pleading, negotiating, or anything like that, you need to understand one thing. My family didn't undergo this change all at once. Honestly, they had never been so honest before. I was a loner until I was 13 years old. Also, that noise is one with which I am familiar. The helpless, lonely kid. I am not trying to show sympathy. I say this because being the only child in your family makes it hard to know how you measure up. When I was younger, I naively thought my parents were wonderful people. They showed no emotion and were icy. They weren't the kind to play with dolls on the floor, but they also didn't feed me. It was they who escorted me to class. Indeed, they were there. Then it was over. Regarding the fine, I had none. The birth of Brianna was like exchanging my parents for a new generation of adults who had discovered true joy, contentment, and financial security. Brianna could give me permission to do anything I wanted whenever I wanted. At the exact moment that I needed it, they ran out of money. It seemed like money materialized just when Brianna needed it. Furthermore, Brianna was treated with great respect. It was as if she were a little princess, everyone said. There were noticeable emotional outbursts from her. My emotions were rude. Adorable messes were made by her. I ought to have exercised greater caution. As far as I can remember, it looked like an unannounced scientific experiment. Worst of all, I tried to minimize its importance by asking, what else do you do? You secretly hope that your parents would treat your younger sister with the same level of respect that they offer you. Do your best to avoid coming across as the jealous older sibling. I would say things like, they're older now, rather than admit it. For them, it's easier. They learned a lot from my upbringing. Things have looked up for them financially. I persisted in trying to frame it as a description of how people evolve. I was subsequently given my role. A third adult who helps out and watches the children. I did the diapering. I excelled at bottles. Your sister was indeed watched by me while I ran my errands. I did hold her while I cooked. Compared to me, you're older. Is it clear to you? I remember asking people, can you help? When I was a child. You were requested to provide assistance. I got right into lending a hand around the house once I was old enough to do it. It feels more like you're a permanent resident here than in some picturesque summer job spending way. Brianna was never the one. Someone invested in Brianna. Brianna was the one who owned the future. Brianna was the one with requirements. I was in my latter years of life. I became used to being the one in charge after a while. I can't explain it to some people. Maintaining the attitude of this is normal instead of wow, I'm being treated unfairly is preferable. I went to a community college in the area since my parents assured me we could afford it. That is simply the nature of families. No money for anything fancy, my mom said in a very helpful manner, as if she were meant to assist me. Because of this, I enrolled in a community college. I lived at home. I had a job. I kept my profile low. I built a career that people take seriously. It started to trickle in. A respectable income. I was married at a young age, which is unfortunate. At the age of 26, I became a mother to my daughter Sadie. I went through a divorce approximately 5 years ago. After all, life is constantly throwing curveballs. This will not be a recounting of my divorce. This is not an example of that. It was, to put it bluntly, a failure. However, I was unprepared for this. After the divorce, things started looking up. It is my apartment. Even though it was little, it seemed to radiate calm. There was no danger whatsoever. I was alone with Sadie. Nobody made any passive-aggressive comments, accused me of anything, or said I owed them anything for my work. Expecting anything from someone had never left me unprepared before. My parents then called us. The foundation was our voice, the voice of logic. Not a low-cost community college, but the real deal, an upscale, expensive university had accepted Brianna. You also had to deal with living far away and paying for tuition. Brianna would still have trouble affording it. Mom warned me. Even if my parents contributed what they could, Brianna might be having too much work, my dad said. That would be the end of her adventure. At last, a question that was heavy on guilt and sugar surfaced. Could you possibly offer some assistance? In my cramped apartment, I stared at the wall of my kitchen while Sadie sat at the table painting. How is it even possible? I said. There are only 2 of us. Mother gave a very well-spoken reply. You might want to think about staying with us. Of course. They loved the child more than I did, so I should go back to the house I spent my adult life trying to escape from so I could help support them. Mom assured me that the room will be very spacious. Regarding Sadie, we will provide assistance. After you significantly reduce your rent, you'll have more money to help your sister out. What lies ahead for Brianna? Goals of Brianna. Everyone is focused on Brianna. Also, I wasn't interested in doing it. This is worth mentioning. It was my deepest wish to go back. I had always been ready for this, but I still enjoyed being alone. I was told to help Brianna, sacrifice, and come up with reasons not to. I gave my assent. Nearly 3 years ago, when I moved in, I kept my promise. At Brianna's university, her single student account covered all of her costs, from tuition and housing to on-campus living. A private student loan helped cover some of that expense. My co-signer was on that loan. Everything that the loan didn't cover, I paid for myself. My card was linked to the university portal, so I paid off the remaining balance every month. It was resolved then. I had come for that one and only reason. To everyone's surprise, they completely disregarded that section. The plot changed in the span of a few months. The 34-year-old Evelyn still lives at home with her parents. You can rely on our assistance. It's unfortunate that Brianna keeps calling me a leech, a loser, and humiliating. It developed into. In contrast, my parents started behaving as though keeping an eye on Sadie in our shared house was some kind of selfless act. For enduring Sadie's antics, everyone ought to feel gratitude. It was there, Sadie pondered. Except during very public events. Prior to reaching the age of 5, many people sighed. Oh, I am definitely busy. Even though Sadie pleaded with her mother for her attention, Her mother's smile never reached her eyes. Sadie started to tone it down when she was around them. The same tranquility she had felt when reading that message earlier. On Christmas Eve, I witnessed my daughters shaking hands, which were brought on by her fear that her grandparents didn't want her. This realization twisted my gut. There were now others besides myself involved. The focus here was on my child. In addition, I never meant to demonstrate to her that love requires groveling for approval. For a while, Sadie was still furious. Sort that does not necessitate raising one's voice. The kind that is quiet and hurt. This is the type of relationship where she never let go of my hand and followed me around like a shadow, as if she were afraid I would disappear. When she was around, I managed to keep my voice light despite the fact that my insides were shaking. As I brushed her hair aside, I said, "Hey." In passing. "Are you in agreement?" An itch went up her nose. An itch went up her nose. "Is that so? Just how? Moving to a new place? Is anybody else here experiencing this?" My comment, "That could actually be really nice," caused Sadie to scowl in confusion. "However, Grandma's house." My response was, "I know. Conversely, imagine a society that accepts you just as you are." She gave me the same expression as if I had given her a unicorn. Beyond that, I kept my mouth shut. I would rather not make her feel the brunt of my adult wrath. Since the first stage included feelings, I kissed her forehead and told her, "We're going to be okay." Then I got back to using my phone. The second step was logistics, which is an area in which I truly shine. My journey began in Hawaii. I went to my inbox to get the booking confirmation, looked for the charge in my banking app, and finally called the number that was on the back of my credit card. Although I wasn't the one making the reservations, I calmly explained that my name was on the reservation. I froze the card, started the dispute, and took measures to make sure my payment info wasn't accidentally associated with anything they could keep enjoying. An adults-only vacation would be the perfect fit for my family's budget. Afterwards, I went ahead and logged into my university account, the very same one I'd been using to pay my bills every month. My savings were being routinely and unexpectedly drained by the costs of tuition, housing, and meal plans. Around $1,180 all at once is the typical amount. I took my card information off the checkout page and turned off automatic withdrawals. No sound, no notification, just a confirmation screen after a few touches. I opted not to let anyone know. I informed Sadie, "All right, we're doing Christmas." As I set down my phone, the original version that my parents had in mind was different from this. We present our version. Lauren is one of the few reliable mom friends I have, so I reached out to her without going into detail. Around Sadie's age, her daughter is born. Since they were in kindergarten, they haven't been separated. She didn't answer after the second ring. "My life is in jeopardy." She raised her voice to ask. "Indeed," I said. "Nevertheless, a miraculous Christmas is necessary." Silence fell. Without warning, her tone became one of ferocious protection. Bringing Sadie was her instruction. "Harper will go absolutely bonkers upon seeing her. Stop by." "No problem. We'll figure it out." Around the middle of the morning, Sadie was already drinking her hot chocolate on Lauren's couch, as she always does. Putting a Santa hat on her head, Harper made it look like she was claiming Sadie. The living room of Lauren emitted the usual cinnamon scent. "No big deal, just a small sigh." "Well, we're actually attempting to lend you a hand." On the table, a little girl of 9 years old discovered no sign that she was not welcome. When Sadie first laughed, it was on that day. Your throat gets tight whenever you hear a real laugh because you had no idea how much you needed to hear it. Harper and Lauren celebrated Christmas with us. Yes, we splurged. Films were shown to us as we sat. We made a joke about how Santa Claus needed therapy. As Sadie drifted off to sleep on the couch, crumbs falling onto her cheeks, a stuffed animal sat under her arm. Plus, for just one day, I felt a glimmer of relief. Shortly after Christmas, I dove headfirst into my work. With conviction, not carelessly, the rental listings were easily accessible to me because of the immediately available filter. They underestimate the number of people who aren't trying to make an impression because no one will notice if you aren't trying. I discovered a tiny, deserted 3-bedroom house a couple of weeks ago. I brought everything that landlords could possibly want. Consistent revenue, well-organized records, and totally no drama. A few days after looking it over and sending in my application, I got the keys. By the weekend, Sadie and I were already sleeping somewhere else, so I started to pack what was rightfully mine. It seems like you also live here, because you furnished the house. Only a short time after we settled in, my parents shared their thoughts. The sofa had seen better days. That chair was really bad for Dad's back. On the coffee table, we couldn't see our reflection. So, I spent $2,650 on the sofa. They settled on a chair that cost almost as much as a month's rent. A heavy, showy coffee table that was loved by all but no one wanted. Thanks to the help I got, I was able to accomplish everything on my card. Their hearts belonged to those pieces. I took great pride in my comfortable chairs, used them daily, and made light of the fact that I was lucky to have them. Upon leaving, I double-checked to make sure I had taken all of the items for which I had paid. That couch. The chair. This is the table. The movers didn't ask any questions. Like you, I didn't. Sadie watched the last piece come into our living room and looked around as if she could see far into the future. Do we not possess this? Absolutely, I said. She smiled as though to express her conviction. Mom called them the day they got back. I almost forgot to respond. Despite my lack of fear, I questioned my ability to bear listening to my mom portray herself as a victim of her own decisions. I was startled when Evelyn barked as soon as I grabbed the phone. How did our living room get to this point of ruin? I also wanted to say hello to you. The couch is gone, she declared with a suddenness. The chair. This is the table. Are you out of your mind? I declined. This is my last day at your house. You made off with our furniture. The police could be called, she suggested. I thought that was a fantastic idea. I can send you a text message containing the receipts while you wait. She made a noise that sounded like a lemon being swallowed. I am astounded by you. Also, while you were in Hawaii, you deactivated your card. We paid for it ourselves, just so you know. Your kindness is superfluous. That was the answer I gave. Those responsible for paying for their own vacation are the adults. Take pleasure in a period of self-improvement. This is not the moment to put on an air of superiority. She started. Give it a push. She abruptly ended the call. I froze for an instant staring at my phone because the sheer audacity was almost praiseworthy. That, though, was only the beginning. In Brianna's student account, the crucial aspect, the one they had neglected to mention, was silently awaiting attention. It was the aspect that was both loud and easy. The duration was minimal. Mom gave her second call around 90 minutes later. The voice is different this time, and it's not just angry even though the name is the same. Angry and terrified. Evelyn, she proceeded to say without doing the warm-up. What exactly is being edited on Brianna's school account? Give me an example. I apologize. I wanted to know. The payment that Brianna attempted to make did not go through. Mom became very angry. There's a message and then some waiting. Before she can enroll for the next term, this needs to be resolved. I kept the volume at a steady level. My card appears to have been removed by the portal. Mom remained silent for half a beat, as if her brain was rebooting. Have you removed it? Yes. As she vehemently rejected our responsibility for her sister's abuse, her tone became harsh and virtuous. I have no intention of penalizing her. As I mentioned before, I will not be paying for her expenses. Claiming to be your sister, her mother acted as though it were a court order in her response. As I continued, I said that Sadie is actually my daughter. Upon your departure, a message was left for her to discover. Maintain the flow of the discussion. Mom became very angry. Not I. As previously mentioned, this is the key point. You ended the agreement, So the payment stopped. Mom spoke with a louder voice. The loan that Brianna applied for was approved. I, too, was notified of the approval in my capacity as a cosigner. Furthermore, prior to the start of the next term, new dispersal paperwork must be finalized. A signature is required. My mom was surprised. It only takes a second to sign. I declined. A noise that is not there. Then came Evelyn. Calmly and definitively, I said no again. Madison and I have a very close, familial relationship. Perhaps Madison would be able to support. Mom groaned. It was my assertion that the joke wasn't mine, but it's funny nonetheless. Achieved it. Give it a push. I ended the call after that. After that, Brianna got in touch. Brianna felt no relief from anything. Recount your actions for me. A firm please came out of her. Were you the ones who broke into my account? I received a message in my inbox regarding a loan. Forms are discussed in the text. It asserts. Her voice carried an angry tone. Recount your actions for me. I let her a few moments to talk. Let her run herself dry. I made it clear that I didn't ruin anything, I stated. Brianna gagged and spat out your name. We observe your resentful behavior here. I was clear, not unevenly, but evenly. You are learning how your own life functions right now. Brianna waited half a second before speaking again. After that, what is the meaning? This means that financial aid won't be handed to you out of thin air by the school. Every semester, as I indicated before, there is paperwork that must be signed. Brianna made her voice more aggressive. It was approved, according to Mom. I said it was for everything that has happened so far. The next step also requires a signature. Just one beat. And you're not doing it, she whispered in a very low voice. I declined. Not I. Brianna started having trouble breathing. That just won't work. I have already done it. I said. I don't have to sign anything else. Thus, how can I proceed? A firm please came out of her. There was a brief moment when it slipped. She seemed composed. She seemed shy. I remained calm in spite of it all. You told me to grow up and be responsible. Do something about it. Silence swept over Brianna. I wanted to inform you that I used dry. No sabotage is taking place. The act of sabotage would have required some effort. She argued that it was unjust in her response. As if taken aback, my jaw twitched. Very interesting. Without even mentioning justice, you degraded me by calling me a leech. My apologies. Exactly what you said. I made a comment about how you were right on one point. I needed to live independently. I said, taking a moment to focus properly. Dispose of it. My next statement was that I am. I can no longer afford to keep you alive. Our respective costs will be met by me. She spoke with greater conviction. You are ruining my life. I declined. Goodbye, Ethan, Brianna uttered, leaving Ethan out of the running. I hung up after that. They took a few extra days to get to my door. Brianna, Mom, and Dad stood there in perfect harmony, as if they had practiced their politeness in the car. No one witnessed me open the door. I conveyed my message through it. Is that what you want? I apologize. I wanted to know. Mom's voice softened. Excessive in sugar. Hey Evelyn. How about we have a chat? I haven't said that yet, but yes. I let her keep talking because, well, people tend to spill the beans when they think they're being persuasive. He coughed, my dad. Please pay attention. That is all we ask. Brianna spoke with a sharpness in her voice. I dare you to believe this. It nearly made sense once more. Brianna had never encountered the word no in her life. The idea of limits obviously struck her as ridiculous. Your sister is in need of your assistance, declared Mom. Without a doubt, I noticed it. Brianna can't get the loan unless you sign it as well. Dad quietly joined in. Co-signing is not an option. Quickly, Grandma entered. Our credit is also not. She managed to control herself and removed it in the end. Forget about qualifying and covering the cost ourselves. It's not going to happen. Brianna became very angry. Sign it if you like. Mom made that sugar voice again. Everyone here loves everyone else. Our families are related. All we wanted was for you to grow up, Brianna unwittingly said. You and I are both 34 years old, she said quietly. Situated on the other side of the room, with my hand on the doorknob, I finally felt the calm that had eluded me for what seemed like an immeasurable amount of time. No, I respond. Mom's voice got increasingly stiff. No, Evelyn. I repeated. And you won't be entering the building. Brianna remarked in an agitated manner. Keep me safe from harm. My mouth dropped open as a long breath escaped. I am not harming you in any way. I will no longer do it for you. It was as if Brianna was on edge. There is no way I can manage to study. I was right when I said you'd figure it out. When they gave me the notice to vacate, I meant it exactly the way they did. You are also an adult. Mom became very angry. Being kind is crucial. Almost comical. Crunchy, I shot back. The message you left for my son, who is 9 years old, could be located. He tried to be more quiet, his dad included. Excuse me, Ethan. I kept the volume at a steady level. You can no longer reach my child. Nobody got back to me. No, I'm against it. Sadie, never again. The sound of Brianna's gasp was audible. Making a mess of everything. You foiled your own plan by treating me like a disposable object. Motherly kindness vanished. You're being a little dramatic. For some reason, I couldn't help but smile as she said it. I declined. It's over for me. I pried open the door slightly to show that I wasn't scared. Just uninterested. And I pointed down the hallway. Get out of here. For a second, Brianna looked like she might cry, like she genuinely could not process someone refusing to rescue her. Then, Dad turned away first. Mom hissed something under her breath. Brianna stared at the door like she was trying to force it open with entitlement alone. Then, they left, and the hallway went quiet. Not empty quiet. Peaceful quiet. I locked the door, and I walked back to where Sadie was coloring at the table in our new living room, humming softly to herself like the world finally made sense again. About 12 weeks ago, my phone lit up with Mom again, and I almost didn't answer, because I already knew this wasn't going to be an apology. But something in me said, take it. Hear what they want this time. Because after everything they did, there was still one last twist I didn't see coming. It wasn't about Sadie. It wasn't about apologizing. It wasn't even about Brianna. It was about the house. They needed my signature again to refinance or avoid a payment jump on the mortgage. I'd co-signed it 7 years ago, back when helping families still sounded like love instead of a warning label. Mom called it just a signature. Like my name was a free stamp. Dad kept saying it's nothing. Like nothing ever becomes something until it's happening to them. They said if the payments jumped, they couldn't afford it. They said they might lose the house. And I won't lie, hearing that did something to me. Not guilt, not triumph. Just this quiet, brutal irony. The same people who left a move-out note for a child to find were now asking me to save their home. I told them no. That was the last time I heard from them. And I'm not going to pretend I know exactly how it ends for them. Whether they found someone else to hold the weight or whether the whole thing finally collapsed like it always should have. All I know is what happened next in my house. Sadie slept through the night. No shaking hands, no fear, just peace. So, what do you think? Did I go too far, or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for